Welcome to LA Editor, Alabama King.
Like, subscribe, follow me on this journey.
Hey guys, welcome back to the channel. Okay, so a quick recap. In February, I planted my orchard. This is what it looked like. Then in April, my wife came back and visited, and this is what the trees looked like. Then in June, the weeds were starting to get out of control, and Brady mowed it, but he only mowed between the rows of the trees. And then in August, my father and I visited the property, and we discovered the weeds were absolutely out of control. We had 2 days on the farm, and at the end of the last video, we just completed the first day. We worked all day bush hogging and weed eating, and got as much done as we possibly could. This is what it looked like. After a steak dinner at Preston's, and a pretty decent sleep at a janky hotel, my dad and I arrived at the farm at about 8 in the morning. Now we don't have a lot of time, because I've got to get back to Atlanta by 4 o'clock to catch my flight back to LA. After looking at my trees, I really thought that my small potted trees were in a lot of trouble.
So these little plants are not doing as well. I took the sleeves off of those. This one's still got a sleeve, these have sleeves. Pull that one off. You see I don't have any leaves.
The Tyvek sleeves I was putting on the trees were actually working great, but there was a lot of rain, there was super high humidity, lots of weeds packed in around the trees.
And it allows moisture to trap, and it's just not very good for them. And there's not a lot of airflow. So I'm taking off of that one's dead, I think, unfortunately.
When you have weeds packed around a tree like that, they hold a lot of moisture. And as a result, you can get fungus and you can get root rot. Well, on top of that, I had Tyvek. The Tyvek's also holding moisture in there. So I think some of my trees are actually suffering because I put the Tyvek tree protectors on. I'm not saying the Tyvek tree protectors are bad, they're actually really good. But because I allowed the weeds to get out of control, it was compounding the negative effects of the weeds. So I decided that morning that I really needed to take all the Tyvek sleeves off of all of the trees. But I had close to 500 trees. That's a lot of trees. So instead, I decided that I'd try to take the Tyvek sleeves off of just the potted trees, since they were suffering the most and needed the most help.
This one's doing pretty good. I'm still gonna take it off and see how I clipped it close. I think that was a mistake on my part because it was such a small tree. That one's actually doing okay. I'm gonna take it off all the small trees. I think this one's dead. Nope, that one's got some growth to it. Some little leaves. Okay, so I took off the Tyvek off of all of those because it's just hurting the trees. They're not big enough. I'm gonna leave it on the bigger ones though, because they seem to be doing pretty good. The leaves are above it.
So basically what I wanted to do with my day was take the Tyvek sleeves off of all the potted trees, get some soil samples so we could see what the soil's doing, and then go through and try to assess as many trees as I possibly could before we had to leave. I got the Tyvek done, I got the soil samples done, and I assessed the majority of my trees. There were around 9 rows that I wasn't able to get to.
Okay, here I am at the intersection of the property. It goes north to the cornfields. Should be gaffered. These are all grown over. I probably don't have very many in there that are any good. But this row, see this one right here, the first one. Here's the first one here. Looks pretty good. This row looks great. Like, what is it about a row? Just the soil, maybe? This is the third row in. Okay, this is I think these are the potted Lakotas. And some of them are doing okay down there. I can't wait till we get the burn strip in. Oh my God. But they're still struggling. Looks like these are the potted. Potted ones struggle, man. But actually down there, they look like they're doing okay. Got quite a few there. This looks like, this one here, the first one, all the way to the third one, they look all dead. But then past that, It's alive, dead, dead, and then 2 more alive. One, two, 5. So this is the pollinator row. So these are coming up like this, but see all these weeds, I gotta get rid of them. So this one looks okay. I can't really see the trees because they're overgrown. I'll get that sorted out soon. This row looks awful. These are Lakotas. 2 dead, 1 alive, 3 dead, and then the rest look not so bad. Looks like every other one is dead. Look, that one's cracked at the top. This looks about every other one. Oh, actually, these have new growth. It looks kind of bad, but the second one's got growth on it. Okay, this row looks fantastic. All those are good. First one. Lakota bare root trees, they're doing very good. These do have scab and stuff on them, it looks like, but since it hasn't been a well-managed orchard and we let it get out of hand, but they're young, and if they live, we'll have all that cleared up. Next season we will spray. Okay. This one's got some stuff growing, but these little potted row, here's the next row. I've actually taken assessments of all of these now, so I'm gonna keep going. This one's hanging in there. Oh. Barely got leaves on it. Some management, this will be good again. This is my weather station. Here, I've got my trail camera.
I have no way of checking in on the property to see how it's doing. So I bought a trail camera so I could monitor weeds while I'm in LA. And just sort of see how the property's doing. Also bought a little weather station. My main reason for buying the weather station was just that I could track rainfall, because it could rain in Luverne, but the storm passes by and it doesn't rain in Rutledge. And literally, Luverne's like a mile from Rutledge. So I wanted to be able to know exactly how much rainfall was falling on my property. Because if I'm not getting rainfall, I gotta call Brady and have him send one of his guys out to water all of the trees for me. Trail camera and new weather station. Everything's solar and cell tower oriented. This row's hanging in there. It's interesting. This part of the land is not as good, and I really need soil samples there. All right. So this part is where we're gonna have to do the soil samples because they were not accurate. Look, that's a row. You can't see it because I took out the, but they're right there. Little teeny tinies. This is the form I created to track how well my pecan trees are doing. So as you can see, I wasn't able to get all of the trees done. I've got 23 trees in a row, and I've got 31 rows of trees. Down here on this line, I've marked which rows were potted trees, and I marked which rows were bare root trees, that's BR. Okay, so basically it went a potted row and then 5 bare root rows, and then a potted row, and then 5 bare root rows, and then a potted row, and so on and so forth for, 31 rows. Now right here, I haven't planted anything here yet. And that's why this row got lost. Okay, so this is empty. I'm gonna plant these probably October, November 2023. Also, down here, you'll see that I have marked what types of trees they are. So this is Amling. These 5 rows will be Lakota rows. Then I've got a row of Gafford. And then I've got 5 Lakotas, an Amling, then 5 Lakotas, a Gafford, and it repeats and it ends with Gafford here. Basically, I got all the way up to here. I just reviewed these very quickly. I didn't have a whole lot of time. And then I had to go to Atlanta. I had to go catch my flight. So all these boxes with the question marks, those are the trees that I missed, that I wasn't able to see. All right, so let's check this out. A means that it's alive with some green. Okay, so it's living and it's got some leaves. Dark green means that it's flourishing. S means it's struggling. Well, if I marked it struggling, that means I wasn't exactly sure if it was dead or if it was struggling. D, those are the trees I know are dead. Then this, E, these are the trees where the graft died and the Elliott rootstock grew. I'm here, little tree. I'm gonna save you. Look, okay, so we got some new growth here. See this tree right here? You see this new growth right there? Well, what's interesting about that is where I'm pointing, that's where the graft is. And that new growth is actually underneath the graft. When you buy pecan trees, you don't buy trees that were grown from pecan nuts. What they do is they take a varietal, which is usually Elliott because it has a very strong rootstock. They grow a rootstock out of it. Once it reaches a certain height, they lop off the top.
I'm gonna take that out.
And then they go find a fruiting tree that fruits really well of a varietal that they want. For my case, it would be Lakota. And they take a scion, or like a little branch of the Lakota tree, shave it down a little, put a notch in the Elliott rootstock tree, and then they tie them together. That's called a graft. When that tree grows up, anything above the graft will be the Lakota tree. Anything below the graft will be the Elliott. But that Lakota tree will be an exact copy, literally a clone, fruiting-wise, pollination-wise, everything, an exact clone of the tree it came from. So what was happening on some of my potted trees was that the grafted part of the plant was dying, but the Elliott was living and growing. Anyway, I think it's interesting, and a few of my trees that this has happened to. Just wanted to point that out. All right, so let's look at this. A couple of Amlings here, 2 suffering. I had 3 here on this row that were doing flourishing. Here I've got an Amling that's alive, 2 suffering, and then dead. Now this was in August. So that didn't look too bad, and I was really worried about this row the most because this was the lost row. Remember, it looked like this. 4, 5, 6. All right, 5 empty rows, which are gonna be Lakota, and I go to the Gafford. And I look down Gafford here and look at all these dead trees. 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7, 8, 9. I've got 9 dead trees out of 20. That's almost half. Not only that, I've got 2 that I know are suffering. All the rest though, they're actually flourishing. They're doing pretty good. But that's over half my trees. Suffering means I don't know if it's dead or not. It might be alive, but it could be dead or dying. So then I go here to this row. This is another interesting thing. See, I've got the potted Gafford here. They're the ones that didn't do so well. Then I've got this row, row 8. These were potted trees too, because when How Hum delivered my trees, they accidentally didn't send me enough trees. And as a result, I was short like 32 trees, I think. So I went back to Underwood Nursery and I got potted trees from him and planted the potted trees. So I had some Lakotas that were potted. And this row was the potted row of Lakotas. I had 1 alive, flourishing, and then look at this. 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7, 8. 8 trees out of 18 trees are dead, because on that row, I only planted 18. But the rest are flourishing, but still, that's half. Then if I go here to this other potted row, again, 1, 2, 3, 4, 5. this Elliott is really dead because it's the rootstock that's living. So that's 6, 7, 8, 9, 10, 11 trees out of 19. That's over half of those trees died, or I think they're dead. Again, this is just a quick assessment. Now, let's go to a bare root row. This is Lakota. These were bare root. I got these from How Hum. And look at this, flourishing, flourishing, suffering, flourishing, suffering, 2 flourishing, a suffering, and then 1 dead. Okay, that's out of 21 trees. So let's say these sufferings die. 1, 2, 3, 4. That's still 4 dead trees out of 21. So that's a pretty darn good ratio. Now those are the bare root trees. Here, I've got some suffering trees. I'm a little worried about them, but all of the trees, for the most part, I think are alive. Same on this row. This is another bare root row. Then I come back to my pollinator. This is Amling. These were potted trees. Flourishing, dead. 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7, 8, 9, 10, 11, 12 dead trees out of 21. That's over half of the potted trees are dead. Then I go back to my bare root tree. Look at that. These things are going bananas. The next row, they're doing really good too. I have maybe 2 that might be dead. Here I've got maybe 4 that might be dead, but that's out of 18 trees. Like still, that's not half my trees. So you can see the pattern here. I don't know why. Look, when I bought the potted trees, I was told that the potted trees were gonna go bananas. They were actually gonna outgrow the bare root trees. As much as I would like to believe that's the case, if I'm looking at these numbers, that's not what I'm seeing. Anyway, here's another bare root row. I've got 1 dead and a few suffering, but for the most part, only 1 dead out of 20 trees. Now let's go back to the potted. These are my Gaffords. This is a Gafford, half gone. You can see I'm pretty devastated. I lost a lot of trees here. What's interesting, the trees that I lost the most of, they were the potted trees. So after I'd done my assessment, I've made my graph. That was really all we could do. We had the soil samples. We were gonna send those off, and that was all we could do, and I had to get going. I had to hop back on the plane, fly back to Los Angeles, and get back to work. Yeah, I don't know what to say. It's a lot of work. And after I'd seen the trees, I decided that I needed to come back to Alabama for more than just a few days. A weekend's not gonna hack it. I need to come back for, I don't know, 2-3 weeks and really put some tender loving care into the property and whip this thing into shape. Because as the farm is right now, Brady can't manage it for me. I gotta whip it into shape, get my rows in order, start putting down my burn strips. Now, once I get the weeds under control, then Brady can mow it for me. As a matter of fact, I wanna plant grass. I wanna plant grass down the middles, in between the rows of trees. And then on the remaining part of the acreage, which is another 10 acres, because I've got 20 acres total that I'm doing this on, I wanna plant grass as well. And Brady has family that has cows, and there are other farmers that have cows around. And you know, the deal would be that they just come and mow the grass for me so that I wouldn't have to mow it. They'd mow the grass, they could take the grass back and feed their cows. Then they don't have to pay for feed. So that's the plan. I also need to install power. I wanna bring water to the property. So I wanna put a water tower on the property. I wanna dig a trench from the road to the end of the orchard, which is about 1,500 feet. And I wanna lay pipe. And then I'll have risers for each row, and off that I'll put drip lines down each row. I also would like to plan for a barn, and we have no storage. We have no equipment, we have no storage. Right now my dad's bringing the weed eater from Hilton Head, South Carolina with him, and all the tools in the back of the car. So we need a place that we can dump all of our tools so that we don't have to be hauling stuff back and forth. And we need to start a barn, basically. So those are the next things that I'm gonna be doing in October, November when I come back. We'll see how it goes. It's gonna be an adventure. All right, guys, I hope this was helpful. Thanks for watching LA Editor, Alabama King. Like, subscribe, follow me on this journey.